Joshua Bright, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me.
At the age of 24 years old, you are here on the show. But when you were 6 years old, something happened, you achieved something. Can you tell us what that was?
Yeah, so when I was 6, I was able to obtain maths GCSE by the grace of God.
And you got a C?
Yeah.
Okay, at the age of 6?
6, yeah.
Okay, at the age of 8?
So 8, I got had three GCSEs,
Okay.
maths again. I did computing as well,
Okay.
and I also did French for the first time.
Right, and
Yeah.
at the age of 10?
Yeah, I had my 7 A to C, so I redid French and got an A.
Okay.
Maths A, business studies, ICT, English and science, double science.
So at what age did you start talking? Because I'm thinking if at the age of 6 you were able to get a C,
Yeah.
which is a pass.
Yeah.
So what age did you start talking? What age did you start?
To be honest, I think you'd have to ask my mum that one. I know I started
I'll try and
walking
get
quite.
on the show and I'll
yeah,
ask.
exactly. Yeah. I remember like there's some things that have happened like when I was young. My nursery teacher used to say, "Oh, he can't tie his laces,"
Right.
or "I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that," without
Okay.
focusing on the positives. And
Yeah.
I was very fortunate to have 2 fantastic parents to this day.
So your nursery teacher was focusing on a lot of negatives.
Exactly. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That you couldn't do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you know, I was lucky that outside of school, I had my mum and my dad who spent a lot of time on me, myself, and my sisters as well,
Right.
growing up, to ensure that maybe people's perceptions wouldn't come to pass.
Yeah.
And I thank God for their impact in our lives up to this day. My dad's a maths teacher, so
Right.
it just makes sense for me to be good at maths.
Yeah. Just like if your dad is a footballer.
Exactly,
you
yeah.
would pick up football or something.
Yeah, he would know what you need to do to be good or
Yes.
how to train.
Yes.
So my dad knew what I needed to learn from a very
Exactly.
early age, and he's been a teacher for 35 years or so.
Wow.
And he used to have private tuitions back in our old place in Hackney.
Okay. So I'm sure you then would hear people
Yeah.
training people, teaching people,
exactly.
and pick up things.
And as a toddler, it's weird because I was naturally curious about what these guys were coming to our house to do.
Right. Okay.
And just I had a strong love for maths from very early on.
Okay.
I was one of the strongest in my primary school
Right,
in
okay.
in maths.
So maybe you got that from him.
Yeah, I definitely say that. Definitely not my mum. Yeah, I definitely say that.
What do you
Yeah.
mean definitely like your mom?
My mum's more the English,
Okay.
English, and
Okay.
the English.
Your
lover.
mom used to be a counsellor, didn't
Yeah,
she?
she did, and also former mayor of Hackney as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
She's still in politics now.
Yeah.
Where we live in Essex. So,
Right.
yeah, she really has a passion for that.
Oh, yeah. And they sound like, would you say they're your role models?
Oh, 100%. 100%. They've been good role models to me, my sisters as well, and our extended family, and they've made an impact on a number of people in the community.
Okay.
To the point where my dad was awarded an MBE
Right.
back end of 2015.
Okay. So I think we need to get both your parents on my
Oh,
show then.
100%, 100%.
MBE,
100%,
mayor, councillor.
Yeah.
And that just goes to show, if they've achieved that, why you obviously call them
Yeah.
role models.
Yeah.
And also in growing up,
Yeah.
your faith, how
Yeah.
also did they impact that in your life?
Yeah, we've always we've always been in the church,
Right.
from a very early age. We used to go to a church in Hackney, and then before we moved, and my dad became a pastor a few years back
Okay.
now. And I've seen the impact of God
Was.
in my life, in my family's life, and some of the things that have happened you can't explain
Right.
naturally. And you
Yes.
just know that there's a higher power that's guiding you and paving the way for you to be able to do fantastic things. So I definitely believe in God, and he's always got the final say, essentially. So yeah.
So growing up and with some of the things you've achieved, peer pressure, what was that like for you? Friends, influences?
Yeah, I mean, with peer pressure, you always have to be strong-minded. And that's one thing I love my parents for. They always tell you to remember the son of who you are, or remember the daughter of who you are.
Even I remember I used to get that.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it like a community thing from sort of like where?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And more importantly, you're a child of God as well, so you already know there are some things that you can and can't do. So you want to try and abide by that. And yeah, peer pressure can get to some people, and it has got to a lot of people that have been growing up and led them down the wrong path.
Okay.
But I'm very fortunate that I've had that guidance from them.
Okay. What about your friends? Do you have like-minded friends?
Yeah. I have a very small circle of friends, but we're all doing fantastic fantastic things within finance, real estate, and essentially 5 friends we set up our social enterprise Capital Moments as well, to try and impact the community and the next generation coming. So we all have that similar vision, and I feel like that's important because one of the things that my parents and people used to say to me is, show me the type of friends you keep around you, and I can tell you the type of person you are. So I just feel like quality rather than quantity is kind of the way that someone should live their life, especially as a young person growing up, and where it's easy to kind of fall into the wrong trap,
very
feel
easy.
like or feel like you should be going to make quick money rather than the the long and hard route.
So would I be correct in saying that hard work has been something that's instilled in you from an early age? Because I want to believe that you would have had to do a bit more to be able to achieve what you've had to achieve.
Definitely, and I feel like sometimes the pressure wasn't even put on by family or by friends. The pressure was put on by myself, because I know that my story is very different to a normal student going through the normal process. So there's a lot more of the spotlight on me to succeed, because if I didn't do well, people will be like, okay, well, you should have waited.
Why the rush?
Why the rush?
Exactly.
What was the point? So when I was young, admittedly, my parents used to give me that push, because sometimes you see your friends playing on the PlayStation whilst you're revising, and you don't really understand the bigger picture. But as I got then as I got to university, it became second nature, to the point where when it was group discussions we were having, or group courseworks, everyone would want to be in my group because they know I'm going to be getting one of the top grades. Or when we had courseworks, people would come and check it with me.
So they've
and stuff.
associated you with success and achievement, really, or whatever you set your minds to.
No, definitely.
That's quite important.
Yeah, and I think it's a mindset thing as well. Because sometimes you can settle to be second best, but if you go in with the attitude that it's number one or nothing, that's where you give yourself the best opportunity to succeed.
Very true. I remember one of the things you mentioned was that even from a young age, one of the ways in which your dad used to teach you maths was using nursery rhymes for the multiplication times table. And it's amazing, isn't it, how children's brains at that age, they're like magnets, isn't it?
Exactly, you're just like soaking everything in, and you don't remember the techniques, and everyone has different techniques of learning.
Very true.
But he obviously found a way that I was able to assimilate it
that's
quicker
true.
than others.
Any other way.
Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. So we've talked about hard work. So what age did you get into uni?
So I got into uni at 14. So I started in Queen Mary University. I studied maths with business management and finance. And I was there from 14 to 17, where I was able to obtain a first class in my degree. I then went back after.
So at 17, you'd finished.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Were you doing your
Finished my
masters?
first degree at 17. Yeah.
One of the things I remember you saying is when you're in a class like that, when you were in uni and you have your group session, one of the key things I remember you mentioning is the ability to be able to not just want to be the best, but also supporting others.
Definitely.
I thought that's quite key.
Yeah, I think it's very important as well, because these are people that you'll be with for 3 years, and hopefully you'd want to know for a lifetime. And
You're much young. You were much
Yeah,
younger than
yeah, I
them
was much
also,
younger, so
yeah.
like 5 years, sometimes even more in
Yes.
certain cases when we had mature students, and especially when I did my masters as well.
Yeah.
But I feel like
Did you have any issues with that?
Not at all. Not at all. I was very fortunate as well. Like, it kind of gave me another kind of level of respect, or I commanded another level of respect because, you know, at first they didn't believe. They were like, oh, yeah, you're messing me about.
Right.
And then I had just got my driver's license, or applied for my driver's license. I was like, look, this is my age. And they're like, what? But I got on well with everyone in my class.
You mentioned something now about people not believing that you were 14.
Yeah.
When you were 12,
Yeah.
you applied
Yeah.
for a place, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And what happened when?
This story makes me laugh all the time. So I just finished my GCSEs, and I went to the college, local college in my area, Brookhouse Sixth Form College in Hackney, when we used to live in Hackney. I went with my dad to go and enroll, like any normal 12-year-old child would do, right? At the
Exactly at 12.
Yeah, exactly. So I took my application there, and the lady looked at it. She's like, "What's your date of birth?" I told her 4th of November 92. So at the time I was like 12 or 11. And she looked at it and she's like, "Okay, this must be a joke." So she was literally about to rip the application in front of me and my dad. My dad was like, "What are you doing? Like, he's 12, blah, blah, blah." So then there was a bit of like, back and forth. And then the vice principal at the time, James Barber was his name, he came over and was like, "Okay, what's happening?" So then he basically took me and my dad to one of the rooms. We spoke. My dad showed him like all my achievements, and all like, "Yeah, but your son's gonna be able to come here." And it's funny because literally 6 months after he left, and it was like God placed him there at that right time.
Because she would have ripped the application and not listened to you.
Yeah, literally, she would have. And it's like God placed him there at that right time for me to be able to, get in. His work, that guy's work was done, and then he moved on. It's like an angel, basically. So he was just there at the right time, fortunately. And that's why I say there's things that have happened in my life I can't explain. Because there was no reason for him to. He just literally left suddenly after 6 months, and now to this day my picture's still up in the college, like a massive photo, because I'm like one of the best students they've had. So, it just shows that sometimes God does things that you can't explain, but then when you look back, you can tell how great He is He's just amazing. You just can't explain it.
You can't, can you? Also, when you were, I think also when you were 17, you do support younger children with maths and...
Yeah. So I help my dad out. Then I also have a couple mentees to this day now that I help with just, general life issues, work, university. They wanted to start a business as well. So, I try and do that. I can't do as much as I could before, just because of time pressures and commitments, other commitments. But I still feel that's so important because I know how important it was for people to give into my life,
support you,
and how people have supported me over the years. So giving back is something that's very important to me.
Very important to you. But it's not necessarily because you were born and a gifted, extra, or do you think you were born like that, or was it some of those method in which he thought?
I think, to be honest, I think it's a bit of both. You have to have not everyone can do what I've done in a sense that my sisters are going down the normal route. They're very, very smart and very, very talented girls.
Did they feel pressure
to
follow?
No, and the reason being is we are very different. Very different. The time when I went, I didn't have as much distractions that we have now as well.
True.
So they
social media.
Yeah, exactly, social media. But then to be fair, when I was in university, Facebook was quite prominent and BlackBerry Messenger at the time. And when it came to exam period, I just literally deactivated everything, like just Facebook. And that was my way of me saying, okay, I'm going to put everything into it. I'm not going to be distracted. I supported Arsenal, so they never won anything, so they never got to any finals, so I didn't have to worry about that.
I don't think Arsenal fans are going to like you.
Yeah, I know.
But you're only speaking the truth.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. It's only after I left university that we started, you know, getting to finals again, which is
what you
interesting.
just said is very important. Yeah. So it was a self-determination on your part to switch off. Yeah. To disconnect because you knew what you wanted to achieve.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think at times why I'm taking time to point that out is we're here because we're sharing your story. And I think the whole idea is, so people might say, oh, yes, have you heard about this Joshua Bright who had first GCSE when it was about age 6? It's also important to show and to explain that there's hard work behind this. There's determination, you know, there's sacrifices to be made. Yeah. I know that one of the little clips of your video that I watched said, Saturday mornings, at times you would get up with your mom, 6 a.m.
All the way to Watford.
From Acne. So that's a mother sacrificing. That's you sacrificing, going all the way there for computer science. Yeah,
and I'm sure she would have had, you know, she could have found other better things to do with her Saturday.
Well, she could have been lying in bed at least, having a bit of a lie, you know, because you've got 3 children working, you know. Yeah.
But, you know, it's some of the sacrifices that, you know, my mom and, you know, my dad have, you know, given to us as a family. And that's just one of many, you know. And, you know, I'd like to replicate the same when the time is right, when I have my own family and
is
stuff.
The time not right yet?
Not yet. Not just yet. Yeah.
Okay. After you left uni, what then did you go on to do? Yeah.
So during the time when I graduated from my first degree and I did a master's. Okay. I had an internship at a major investment bank. Right. And I was, you know, by God's grace, able to convert that to a full-time offer. Okay. And I worked there for a number of years, and it was really good experience. I really enjoyed my time there. Made some very good friends who I'm still friends with till today, and learned a lot. And it was definitely an important experience for me because you can see the transition from university to the working world. It's very, very big, and it's very easy to be naive in a sense where you feel like you could be the smartest in school, but that's the smartest in your school. Exactly. You're going to be working with the smartest people in the various schools that they've all come from different backgrounds, various beliefs. Yep. So that was a very different environment, but you have to adapt. Yes. And you have to adapt in a number of ways, just through the way you speak, you know, through the way you send emails, through the way you relate to people as well, which are some of them, like, you know, the things you take for granted because you're with your friends 24/7. Exactly. You know, you can't use, you know, certain slang words and stuff.
And these are some of the things that you've then taken and you've put it into this. Is it business? That you and some of your friends have put together?
Capital Moments, exactly, because. As I said before, the transition can be quite difficult, and even getting that first opportunity is very difficult, especially now because it's quite competitive. It is, and just having an appreciation for, you know, what's going on around you with regards to commercial awareness is so important, especially if you want to get into fields like banking, accounting, consulting, to name a few. So myself and 5 other friends, we set up Capital Moments about 2 years ago now. Okay. And basically what we try and do is we give students and young professionals a platform to basically share their views and opinions on various topics relating to economics, personal finance, business, politics, law and lifestyle, with the, you know, to basically impact the lives of others who may not have an appreciation for it. And, you know, we've done so well so far. We've got a lot of good feedback. We just released an ebook in December for students that are looking to get internships and, you know, convert them into full-time offers. Sometimes when you want to, you know, to keep yourself abreast in for example, financial news, some of the platforms that you have are for people that have a certain level of experience. So what we try and do is we take what you get from maybe the Financial Times and we break it down so that if I was you, if you was explaining it to your mum or your dad, you'd be able to explain it in you know, the most basic of terms.
That is so
and that's
true,
what we try and do, to basically show that you can have an opinion, or you can read it, but it's not just about reading it, but you can have your own opinion and form your own opinion from what you read. And it just comes with, you know,
especially if you don't know all those financial jargons.
Exactly.
You're just going to be saying
exactly.
And you're not going to get through to the next level.
Exactly.
Okay. So sorry, so you then went into work for this organization when you finished. And then currently, what are you doing at the moment?
So now I'm currently within debt capital markets, so basically helping clients raise third-party financing in the public markets through a number of investors. So they could be raising anything from 50 million all the way up to 10 billion, for example, across you know, various currencies.
And you're an associate?
Associate there, So recently promoted, thank God.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. So I'm enjoying that. It's the next phase of my career now, so kind of know what I want to do to, you know, kind of get to the next level and the next level. It's just about knuckling down now and staying focused.
And thank you, and also thank you for giving back, because it's not everybody that gets to that stage where they feel that yes, they want to give something back, irrespective of, you know, whatever they've been able to achieve. And it's not really about turning everything into monetary value, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So the social enterprise, you could very easily be charging for that and you know, making, you know, yourself some good money on there. It's not always about that. Going forward, in terms of your relationship with God and, you know, where you want to get to, what would you say is your purpose in life?
I think I'd say one of my main purposes in life is, you know, to continue being an inspiration, and trying to be a role model to
continue being an inspiration.
Yeah, continue being an inspiration, because I feel like, you know, my sisters see me as an inspiration, my younger cousins see me as an inspiration, some of the, you know, the people I've interacted with see me as, you know.
Can I add my son to that? The reason I say that was because I showed him a video, obviously, when I was researching about you, and it's just a short clip, you know. And afterwards, it was like, wow. So you are, you know, and obviously, we don't necessarily have to say because you're coming from Akane, it doesn't mean that you know, one cannot amount to what God desires us to be, you know. So, so yes. So you'll be an inspiration. Yeah,
and trying to be, you know, a good role model, you know, to not just my generation, but the generations, you know, coming ahead and making a change in kind of the community that we live in, and especially that's what we're trying to do with the business and, you know, just everyday, you know, interactions with people as well, and try and transform and foster their mindsets to see that they can, you know, achieve more than where they've come from. You know, it's funny because a couple of years ago I said to my friend, there is a life outside of London, but sometimes we don't see it. You know, I actually went to Manchester I went outside of London for the first time in you know, a couple months ago, and you can see that it's very different. But then you're still in the UK. Let's you know, compare London to Amsterdam, which is 45 minutes away. You're in a different country. So being able to have you know, a bigger picture, have the bigger picture, not just in the way we relate to people, but the way we think about where we want to get to, I feel is just equally as important.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you once again for having me.
Sharing your life and your story with us.
Yeah, thank you.
And your walk with God, which is quite important. The ability to be able to, you know, give it all back to Him, you know, as the main source of the knowledge that you've acquired.
Yeah, definitely.
And also to parents, hard-working, prayerful parents. Yeah. We definitely must give that back to them.
100%.
Yeah. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next week on Story Before Glory.
I'm a lecturer that actually feels that women are not meant to be there. And you know that you need to pass his module. I remember having a panic attack at the end.